Okay, so we'll do a little bit of review as we always do, and then we'll try to take some. We'll try to take some rounds. Okay, so we're talking about the Christian worldview, to which we will compare all the other worldviews. So it'll be a compare and contrast, and a couple of these things. So what is a worldview? It is the way in which one views the world. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Another definition would be an understanding of how the world works and where one fits in it, where we fit in it. The foundation from which one lives, views life, thinks, and responds to the world in which he or she lives. And we all have a worldview, whether we realize it or not. So the anchor. So every lesson has an anchor, a thought that kind of encompasses what we're talking about. And so the anchor for this part is the Christian world is the way God views the world. And so if we are going to have a Christian worldview, we are to see the world the way God does. And that's what this whole lesson will be about once we get our books. So we talked about Christians, neo-Christians, non-believers, and only Christians are saved. They can go to church, they can believe there's a God, and if you haven't been saved by grace through faith, it's not a Christian. They're not a Christian. So we talked about these 5 life questions, these questions that people ask like intuitively, from where did we come? Why is there such a mess in the world? And that's our fault, right? We choose, and it's not Adam and Eve's fault. Adam and Eve were the first, but we would have made the same decision if we were in the garden. Why? Because we do the same thing every day. We sin every single day. So we would have made the same decision. What hope do I have in life? And then what is my purpose in life? And then what happens when I die? You're going to see these again. We're going to talk about them in some I don't know. We're going to talk about it a lot. So we're going to talk about what happens when I die. We're not answering these now. Just these are the questions. So 5 major worldview belief systems. So one is theism. Theism isn't a worldview. It is a headline. It's a covering over some worldviews. So theism is just the belief in one God. So any worldview that believes in one God is going to be theistic. So that can be Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. That doesn't mean they're all right. But they are Christian, not Christian worldviews. They are theistic worldviews. And then humanism, naturalism just means there is no God, there is no supernatural, there is nothing outside the physical universe. Only the physical universe exists to a theist. So these are going to be people that are atheists, of course. And then postmodernism is largely atheistic as well, but it is very culture-driven, and it is very... Have you ever seen... What's the painter that is like very famous? Van Gogh. No, not Van Gogh, but I saw the Night Watch film. Anyway, right.
Yeah.
So anyway, the guy that like everything is disjointed and like he'll
Picasso.
Yeah, maybe Picasso, and he's got a big eye here, and he's got a little eye here, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's postmodernism. That's like nothing. There's no such thing as conventional. It's very unconventional, and people who are postmodernists, you don't tell me what's right and wrong. Don't tell me what I can and can't do. It's a very much married to freedom to do whatever. And so in the modern age, and the modern age you're going to think is really old because it is. The modern age was like from probably in the 1700s or so up until probably sometime after World War II, maybe to like the 1950s. Postmodernism began to come into being partly in the 60s. The 60s, especially in America, was a lot of upheaval. And part of that was in the late 60s and into the 70s, the Vietnam War. And our country was at war with one another. And it was a very sad time because the war was very contested. There were people on both sides of the aisle that were, like this. We shouldn't be there. This is awful. We're baby killers. And then people who were for the war, and it just tore our country apart. There were demonstrations and just really a hard time. And so that's postmodernism. Like there's no right, there's no wrong. It's whatever you want to do. And that's it reminds me of a prison. Not just because you're not ordered, but because when you put that many people who are prone to misbehave, you're going to have all kinds of problems. Stopping fights and so that idea that this is what is common, this is what is decent, this is how you should behave. None of that is part of postmodernism. You do whatever you want to do, and that sounds like fun, but the thing is not everyone wants to do what you want them to do, and it there ends up being conflict in that kind of a worldview. And we'll talk more about it. Pantheism is the belief that it's not the belief of many gods, it's the belief that everything is God. That's a simple definition. Spiritism is there are many gods, or there are many spirits, and the spirits take care of everything. So I think I love the show Madam Secretary. And there's one episode where they're making a deal with Sri Lanka for fast internet. And the president of Sri Lanka brings his Tasir, which is his leader. And he's claiming to be speaking for the grandmother of the president of Sri Lanka. Based on it, he put a little water in there. They put some tea leaves, and they close it and they shake it, and the way the tea leaves come out tell the Tasiography what that person is saying. That's spiritism. The spirit of his grandmother was speaking to this person who had insight, or had the gift of sight. So that's spiritism. You believe in many spirits. Some of the spirits are good, some of the spirits are bad, but it's all about dead people that have become spirits, which isn't what the Bible tells us. And so then theism, there are three theistic religions: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. I don't know why they made those smaller, but each of those, I'm not saying they're all correct, but each of them believe in one God. And so that's theism. We talked about this already. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the Christian worldview. So God is the head, literally here, of the believer. God is the king, and the believer is beholden to him. And so he's standing on the Bible, right? The Bible is our guide through life. And then this person is saved and is a child of God and is forgiven and is set apart by God for God. And he has hope and he has purpose and he has love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. The fruit of the Spirit. One of my bugaboos is people call it the fruits of the Spirit. It is not the fruits of the Spirit. It is the fruit of the Spirit. Because you have all of it available to you. It's not like, well, I have the fruit of love, but not of patience. No, it's all available to us through the Spirit. And so as we walk with Christ, we become, we exhibit those, that fruit of the Spirit. Not perfectly, because we are all dirty, rotten sinners deserving hell, but we do grow in our faith as we go. So we have here this graphic about God and man. Here we go. And the cross of Christ is where God met man. Jesus made it possible for us to have a relationship with God. And it was gruesome and it was awful, but it was also the only way that we could live with God forever. So the pathway for people to come to know God, to live with God forever, is the cross and the empty tomb as well. And that is at the core of the Christian worldview. So how does the Christian worldview answer the 5 life questions? So the first one is, from where did we come? And Genesis 1:1 tells us, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So God created the heavens and the earth, and then he created human beings, and he created you. And then the second question is, why is there such a mess in the world? Oh, we're going to see you. There you go. That's you. Why is there such a mess in the world? And we can't go very far without seeing the mess in the world. And when we get our books, I'll go over this a little bit again. But there is so much chaos in our world, and the change from and I know I'm ancient, but the change from my childhood to your childhood is stark. I don't remember praying in school. I know that it was allowed in school, but I don't ever remember doing that. Maybe that was because we were on military bases a lot of the time. But just 50 years ago, you could pray in school. You can't anymore. the Ten Commandments was posted in schools and in public places other than churches. And James Madison, who was the fourth president, was known as the father of our Constitution, made this statement. We have staked the whole of our political institutions upon the capacity of mankind for self-government, upon the capacity of each and all of us to govern ourselves, to control ourselves, to sustain ourselves according to the Ten Commandments of God. And what they realized was if we couldn't do that, the experiment wouldn't last very long. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how things have changed. Before 1968, nearly all movies were generally wholesome and were okay for children as well as adults. They didn't have a ratings. They didn't need to have a rating system. They should have had it with Darby O'Gill and the Little People, because that thing messed me up. I was crying by the end. I should watch it again because I'm sure it's not that, but I was in third grade, so. But I was beside myself. But anyway, they didn't need that. It was for both adults and children. Music in popular radio was the content was innocent and carefree and devoid of drugs and alcohol and vulgarity and sex and all of that stuff. The top, one of the top in 1953, one of the top 10 songs in the country was "The Doggy in the Window." As everybody's listening, how much is that doggy in the window? You know? No. Yeah. You haven't heard this song?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Can you play it for us so we can get a glimpse?
Yeah.
You don't want me to sing it?
You can try.
I'll see if I can find it.
Great.
I mean, this is just.
I've never heard
That's crazy.
What? I've never heard something. I must introduce you. Wait, you heard it? I never heard it. You heard it? I don't know. Maybe I'll take it. I got 80s but I feel like for a baby, it's like a child.
There it is. Oh.
Everyone was
I'm probably going to have to just.
I don't have.
That is weird.
There we go. was very popular before my time.
And I do hope that the one with the how much is that dog in the window? The one with the waggly tail. How much is that dog in the window? I do hope that dog is for sale. I must take a trip to California and leave my poor sweetheart alone. If he has a dog, he won't be lonesome, and the doggy will have a good home. How much is that doggy in the window? The one with the waggly tail. How is that dog in the window? I do hope that dog is for sale.
Oh, I wanna hear him sing. I love singing in the rain.
Right?
I don't do the rapping.
And then, so to give you some context, this is the 1950s. By the 1960s, 10 years later, we have Woodstock. And we have drugs. And we have people overdosing. And very different. Okay, here, as long as we're doing music. I'm just gonna let you see what was happening at the
That's just very specific. And then you walk red stuff. What? And he got red stuff. It doesn't sound. It sounds like. I'm sorry.
That's what it looked like.
Thank you.
Wait, just cue it up. Wait, what is it?
Woodstock was a multi-day festival. And I think this is the largest.
Oh no. Those are really high.
But I don't know. I'm getting weird. Oh, you know this song?
You know the donkey in the window.
It's, it's like, anybody, heard, listen to music?
Music?
We were about,
I listen to music.
Doobie Brothers?
No.
They are not brothers. They were trying, they formed a band, and, they were, hanging out and talking about what they should call themselves, and I'm gonna tell you the truth about this. Don't get me in trouble.